Pedros Hashem Yisporach, Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parashat Ki Teitze, Shanas Tov Shian Pei Beis. In the wars that Am Yisrael had to fight when they came to conquer Eretz Yisrael, there were two types of wars. There was one type of war which was called Melchemet Mitzvah. It was a mitzvah to wage these wars. These were the wars we had to fight against the 7 nations which were living in Eretz Yisrael. Knani, Achiti, Emoiri, Aprizi, Girgoshi, Achivi, everyone, the 7 nations that were living, the Sheva Umois, that were living in Eretz Yisrael at the time, and Am Yisrael came from the desert that to conquer Eretz Yisrael. This war was called Melchemet Mitzvah, a mitzvah to conquer those nations. And not only did you have to win those nations, but you had to as well kill every single one of these nations. You had to wipe out entirely the whole nation. Men, women, children, the animals, that there shouldn't be any living survivors from the Sheva Umois. These were called Melchemet Mitzvah that Am Yisrael had to wage when they came to Eretz Yisrael. But there was another milchama, another type of war which was in Am Yisrael is called Melchemes Hareshus. Melchemes Hareshus means a voluntary war. Not these 7 nations, but another nation. You want to wage a war against the other nations. If you want to go, you can go and wage a war against the other nations. And says Rashi, our parsha speaks about this second type of war, a voluntary war, a war which is called Melchemet Hareshus. If you want to go to war, you can go to war, and this is a parsha speaking. And that's why you can take captive. Why can you take captives? Because it's not one of the Sheva Umois. It is a Melchemet Hareshus. It's one of the other Umois, the other nations of the world. Ask the holy Imre Menachem from Alexander, which I was Zoicha, Baruch Hashem, to be very close to the holy Imre Menachem of Alexander. He used to live here in Bnei Brak, and he asked the following question. It says in the Zohar HaKadosh, the holy Zohar says as follows: Ki seitze la milchoma leivecho do milchemta de yetzer hora. When it says in the Pasuk, Ki seitze la milchoma leivecho, it is a remez. It is hinting to the war which one wages against the Yetzer Hara. I don't understand. Ask Holy Menachem, the war against the Yetzer Hara is called Melchemes Hareshus, a voluntary war. Isn't it more shayach that the Zohar HaKadosh should have said the inyan, the idea of fighting against the Yetzer Hara, when the Torah speaks about Lo Sechaya Kol Neshama, when you go against the Sheva Umois, that should have been the war of the Melchemes HaYetzer. Melchemes Mitzvah. And nevertheless, we find that when the Zohar wants to describe the war against Yetzer Hara, he waits till Parashat Ki Teitze, and he interprets in the words of Ki Teitze la Milchoma. Like it says, Ki Teitze la Milchoma levecho, you go against Yetzer Hara, who's your enemy. Uneson Hashem lekecho, you'll be matzliach to overcome the Yetzer Hara. V'shavisa shif yoy, I will take him captive. But why in Ki Teitze? It's Melchemes Hareshus. It's a voluntary war. So that's what Ibn Menachem asked. Would it be more shayach to have said it in a case in the Melchemes HaMitzvah? Says the holy Ibn Menachem, with a great idea, fundamental idea, when one wants to wage a war against the Yetzer Hara, that Yetzer Hara, the place where the Yetzer Hara always wants to wage a war against you is Tafka B'dvar Hareshus. Things which look permissible. It's permitted for you. Why not? Do it. It's mutter. It's okay. It's parva. You can go. It's mutter. Everything which is mutter, the Yetzer Hara wants you to become more and more megushim. Yetzer Hara wants you to become more and more a person, a materialistic person. Says mutter. What's wrong? You can do it. You can eat it. You can go. Well, it's mutter. Says Ibn Menachem. The main war of the Yetzer Hara is dafka b'dvar hareshus, because there is no, in the lexicon of the Yetzer Hara, there is no word aveira. Yetzer Hara will never tell a person do an aveira. Hey, do an aveira. No, He just finds what's mutter, and he wants you to become a more materialistic person. He said, mutter, mutar lecha, lama lo. And then he distances you from Hashem. Because the idea when a person becomes more materialistic, even so it's mutter, nevertheless it distances you from Hashem. As we know, the Pasuk says so in Parashat Devorim, in Parsha Aleph, it says this Pasuk, you will eat v'savoto, you'll be satisfied, you'll eat a lot, you'll be satisfied. Ubotim toivim tivne, and you will have beautiful houses. V'yoshavto, and you'll be well, you'll be comfortable in your houses. And then what will happen? It's all mutter, it's all permitted, but nevertheless, the more a person becomes Megushim, the more he distances from Hashem. And that's where the Yetzer Hara, in Melchemes HaReshus, it doesn't look like a mitzvah, the Melchemet HaYetzer. But that's exactly the point. Yetzer Hara wants to distance you from Hashem, wants you to become a more materialistic person. And that's where the Melchoma lies. So let's have a look at the Pasuk. You will now fight the Yetzer Hara, uneson Hashem Elokecho, your God. You will not forget Hashem. My battle against Yetzer Hara is to be a more spiritual person. It's to be someone who's connected to Hashem. And then what will happen? V'shoviso shivyoy. You will then take him captive. What does it mean? Because on that place where the Yetzer Hara, the strength of the Yetzer Hara was where? B'dvar Gashmius. Tafka, through the Gashmius, you will serve Hashem. Because a person has to eat, a person has to go on holiday, a person wants to build nice houses. But if you do it because I want to serve Hashem better, if you do it because this will all help me in my avodas Hashem, then you took the strength of the Yetzer Hara of the Gashmius, and instead of the Gashmius, a materialistic word to distance you from Hashem, on the contrary, it will become a part of your avodas Hashem. They're eating, and the houses, and the parnasa one does. It may look so materialistic, but if you do it with a mission, if you do it for a reason, because through the parnasa, through the materialistic world, I will be able to support my family. I'll be able to have beautiful Shabbos. I'll be able to help the poor. Wow, your whole materialistic life became a holy life, and you don't have a Shavisa Shivya greater than this. Then you took the Yetzer Hara, the koyach of the Yetzer Hara which lies in the Gashmias, and you took it and elevated it, and you took it captive from the Yetzer Hara, and you brought it to Avodas Hashem. You changed over the Gashmias to something which is spiritual. And that's the idea. You will fight the Yetzer Hara who's trying to distance you from Hashem. Hashem Elokecho, your God. You live with Hashem. And then and then you took the Yetzer Hara captive. Because everything of Gashmias will now become spiritual. And I'd like to say how he said over the Ibn Menachem. Hainu. With that strength which Yetzer Hara is yitkaber alecha, he is trying to overcome you. Titkaber ato olov, you overcome the Yetzer Hara, v'tenatzchoi, and you will win over the Yetzer Hara. How? Al yedei shetashkia atzmocho begeshem, you will be mashkia in all the gashmias. And what's the purpose of the Gashmias? Not just a materialistic purpose, but rather this is the most beautiful idea. What we can understand, the Zohar HaKodesh is describing the Melchemet HaYetzer Hara. So there's a story, the holy, there was the holy Rosh Hashiva Reb Steinman, Bala Yeles HaShachar, Aaron Yehuda Leib Steinman, Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh Evrocher, Rabbi Yisrael, it's the Gwena Reb Steinman in the world, Rehov Chazonish 5, Rehov Chazonish number 5 in Bnei Brak. And people would come in the morning, and they would wait in a queue, at least 80 people would be ahead. And everyone's waiting for a brocha, or a eitzah, or advice from the holy Rosh Hashiva Reb Steinman. And one man was waiting, and he had like this, 80 people ahead of him, but he sees one person walks in. He cuts a whole queue, knocks on the door, and walks in and by Reb Steinman. He's with Reb Steinman 10 minutes, no less. And then he goes back out the house. So somebody went to one of the grandchildren of Steinman and said, who is this man? What audacity did he have? Who is he? That he should be able to cut over 80 people waiting in a queue. And it was hot, it was tzafuf. he said, this man, he is the doctor of the Rosh Yeshiva. He comes every day to check the blood pressure of the Rosh Yeshiva. He comes every day to see the medicine the Rosh Yeshiva has, if everything is okay with the Rosh Yeshiva. He doesn't have to wait in a queue. He's a doctor of the Rosh Yeshiva. And this is the idea we learn from this. When we come, Be'ezras Hashem Lifnei Yoim Hadin, everyone wants to have success in business. Everyone wants to have, Be'ezras Hashem, healthy, and so much brachos and a lot of gashmias. So this is the idea. If the gashmias is used to distance you from Hashem, then why? It's for yourself? Then you have to wait. Hashem doesn't give out. But if somebody says, V'shaviso shivyoy, everything that I've got, I have a purpose. It's to bring me closer to Hashem. I'm able to take all the materialistic world and make it into a spiritual purpose. Then says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't have to wait in a queue. You're here for Hashem, you don't have to wait for a queue. Like the doctor came for Reb Steinman. He's coming for Reb Steinman. He's a doctor of Reb Steinman. He skips the queue. Same too, you can come to Yomim Neroim. You can tell the Ribono Shel Olam, everything I've got and everything I'm working for is for you, Hashem. That's my purpose. And therefore you be zoicher to atzlocha, arvocha, panosa, gezint, and everything you can have. Be'ezras Hashem Yispurach, al yedei the lesson we learned today. Thank you very much for listening. We have a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbos, Shulam and Mavoirach.